Welcome to another episode of Out of Spec Dave, where today I'm going to be doing an interesting Dave comparison video. You know, over on the Out of Spec Guide channel, you may catch me going over some of the statistics, the numbers, the lengths, the capacity, the cubic feet, all that good stuff, the models, the pricing. But today, I want to go over the Model Y Tesla, in case you didn't know that was a Tesla, that is a Tesla, and the Model 3. And sort of what my thoughts about these two vehicles are. Why are they so popular? Why are they so wildly popular? Is this really an SUV? Is it really better than the Model 3? Or is the Model 3 better than the Model Y? And I'm just going to give you my thoughts. Whether or not you agree with them or not, whatever. But let's get into it. When you're riding a Harley Davidson, you've got your feet sort of out in front of you. I don't know if you can get this, Kathy, but like your feet, you're riding like this and you got your hands up on the handlebars. Whereas when you're riding, let's say an adventure bike, like a BMW 1200 GSA or some of the KTM adventure bikes, you're sitting a little bit more upright where your legs are more straight. This is the SUV version. Both these cars are so similar in so many different ways, but I want to show you some of the comparisons that I find. Come on over here, let me show you this. Uh-oh, I'm locked out. Oh, how are you able to do that? And I was.
My car.
Your car, okay. It doesn't want me selling it is what it is. So you see right over here, the posture of my legs, the angle of my legs, it comes down. You know, the fact is that you're sitting a lot more upright in this car. The roof, you know, I've got quite a bit of headroom in this car. I do in the Model 3 as well, but in the Model 3 I'm sitting more like a Harley, you know, like a little bit more like a sports car. Let me show you that. Check this out. And what I find is that both of them are quite comfortable, and I'm 6'5". Getting in and out of these cars, they're real easy for me to get in and out of. And we turn down the AC right there a little bit, but you can see my feet are a little bit more outstretched. This car, believe it or not, has more front leg room than the Model Y does because it's just a different posture. Not to say one is better or worse than the other, but it's just the way it is. What I find being 6'5" is that I put the seat back quite far. I have no issues reaching the pedals or the steering wheel. I put the steering wheel all the way out as well. And because of that, I come back so far that the roof line, come on in here, let me show you this. I'll take this right here. You can see that the roof line where, right here, where it becomes glass is really kind of, you get the benefit of the glass in this car, whereas if you're a little bit shorter and you're sitting a little bit closer up, you're going to lose that line. The other thing is you do have this crossbar in the Model 3. You have glass that goes all the way back in this car, which is amazing, but you have this crossbar in the Model 3, whereas in the Model Y, you don't have that. So that's kind of an interesting difference there. Now, one of the things I want to do also is sit in the back seat of this car. There's a huge difference in terms of leg room. Now, I have the seat where I sit with comfortable in this Model 3, and I'm going to try to get into this car. And you can see I'm in here, but my legs, I have, my head is touching the roof. In this Model 3, and if I scrunch forward, let me roll down this window for a moment. I have to, okay, I didn't jam my knee, but I have to be careful. And again, this is an extreme situation where you have a 6'5" guy sitting behind a 6'5" guy. Your situation is not something that is intolerable, but it's clearly not as much room as I would have in the Model Y. Let me go over to the Model Y and show you what I mean by that. Getting out, always pull your left leg out first, and then jam yourself out. I don't know why I'm 6'5", but I am. All right, let's see. Now the seat on the Model Y is exactly where it is for me. And when I sit over here, Not that much more leg room per se. Let me roll down the window. But headroom, a lot more headroom, a lot more headroom. And the car just feels, there's a decent amount more leg room here. But I would say that the headrests, like I'm not hitting my head on here, but interestingly enough, the glass roof in the Model 3, it goes all the way to the back as one solid piece from the crossbar back, whereas this, you don't have it going as far back. Super hot out today, 97 degrees here on Marco Island, so we're gonna cut through this one pretty quickly. But, all right, technique of getting out, patented, many years of experience there. The other thing that you get with the Y is just a lot more room. I mean, the cubic feet in terms of storage, it's self-explanatory, but I really wish the Model 3 was a hatchback, just like the Model S is a hatchback. Yesterday, we took Kathy's bike, and it was a full-size bike. We put it in the back of the Y. I was able to shut the hatch on the Y, but I couldn't latch it. But if it were a Model S, you could open up that back hatch and put it in, and a bike would fit in the Model S for sure, even though it's a car. But I wish the Model 3 was also a hatch. It's not, it's a trunk. I mean, you do have the ability to fold through, fold the seats down in the rear, and you have decent amount of room. I know that my buddy Rob has a little cushion where he slept in the car in the past, putting it in camp mode, maybe just kind of like during COVID, I think he was avoiding hotels. And a lot of people were doing that and buying those mattresses. But look, I don't know how much more room you'd have to do that in a Y versus a 3. But clearly the Y is a bigger vehicle. Now, both these cars are awesome. I think that they, in terms of how they ride and how they accelerate, the 3 is much more of a sports car. And I think we all understand that. The fact that right now we have, this is Kathy, this is your car here, the 2023 Model Y. This is a 2019 Model 3. You'll notice that it has the chrome trim on this car. Now they've gone to the blacked out trim in all of the Model 3s and Model Ys, which I think looks, they both look pretty good. But the new Model 3 it's really the battery pack that you can get in the base rear wheel drive. It's a tremendously good value. Again, I went over all the numbers on the Out of Spec Guide channel, but the question is, which of these vehicles is right for you? And I would argue that they're both very complementary. If I were to have to pick one, it would be the Y, just because of the versatility. Unless I was maybe just all alone, I didn't have kids, even if you have a dog, I mean, both these cars are great for dog mode, just because you're able to leave your pup in the car, and during these hot weather, Bailey, she doesn't get hot or cold during the winter. And so, you know, it's dog mode is an amazing feature, but any Tesla will have that. But I think if you're going to choose one vehicle to have in the family, especially if it's your first vehicle, then first electric vehicle, I think the Model Y is the way to go. Now, both these cars have Frunks, which are front trunks, as we all know. All right, so let's do a little Frunk comparison. And while you may think these are the same exact size, the Model 3 versus the Model Y, and I don't believe they've changed the Frunk in the Model 3 since 2019, because this is a 2019. It's quite wide, it's quite shallow compared to, when you look at it's much deeper, and it does not look to be quite as wide either, although that may be deceiving. But I mean, if you look at, for example, if you look at the distance from here to here on a Model 3 versus the distance here from here to here, it's definitely not as wide in the Model Y, but deeper. It's probably hold about the same amount of water or ice that's in, that's in there. I don't know if you'd put ice in there. I don't think there's any drain, and I wouldn't suggest putting water, but you know what I mean in terms of the volume. But here's a nice shot of how these cars look, very much complementary with their dentist look, open wide. And let's see what you got inside there. Interesting that the Model 3, I hadn't noticed this. It doesn't have any kind of insulation. This Model Y has got some interesting insulation. Now again, maybe the Model 3s now, I'd have to open up my Frunk on my 2023. This is a 2019, but that's interesting. You got definitely some different architecture there. The headlights that are on this 2023 Model Y, you'll notice these are kind of the newer headlights. They have this round beam over there, and these are the older style headlights. They've been putting these into originally they started putting these into the performance models, and now they've been putting them into even my Model 3 base rear-wheel drive 2023 has the same headlights as those. Forget exactly what they call those, but they're very bright, and they do great. They're sort of LED digital headlamps. This particular car has hardware 4 on it, which is new cameras, a new computer, and also radar. Although we're not sure, actually this car doesn't have radar on it. The Model S's and X's do, but not the Model Y's yet. But that will be used for advanced driver assistance and much clearer cameras that go into them. All right, so being 6'5", let me do a quick test. Just which is easier to get in and out of? Obviously a lower car, a little bit lower car. The B-pillar in this car, this is what's called the B-pillar, is pretty far back compared to even in the Model S's, where they're pretty far forward. And I find in the Model S I have to actually go forward around the B-pillar and then in. And this car, I do plop into it, but I get into it pretty well, and I have no issues getting myself in this car. Once I'm in there, I do have plenty of headroom in the front seat. Rear seat, as I mentioned earlier, is a little bit tight, but I do have plenty of headroom in this car, and the visibility out the front is, I see the two sort of curves in the metal on the front left and the front right fender. And as far as the road goes, it's pretty far out from my vantage point. Now, I slam the seats down when I sit in cars. I don't put them up. If you raise your seat up, or if you get closer, you'll change that vantage point. But for me, I like to slam my seat down. And you know, getting out of this car, let's just say, my technique is elbows. I do it all the time, and I'm out. And it's really not a problem. Oftentimes in my Lucid, I'll hit my head. In the Model S, I'll hit my head. I don't hit my head in this Model 3. It is lower than the Model Y, so let's see how much lower it really feels. We'll come on over here. Now let me make sure the seat is all the way down. It is. Getting in. Yeah, I mean, I don't have to plop myself down in the car as much. Quite a bit more headroom, I would say, at least 2 inches more just from my vantage point. From where I'm sitting in the car, I don't see either of the fenders like you do in the Model 3. What I see is the road, and it's quite good. Out the back, I would say that the Model 3 has a little bit better visibility out the back. The rear window in this Model Y is quite small. You do have a rear view camera that you can put on and use that, but it's great. Ergonomically, this car and the Model 3, they're just so perfectly designed, where you put your elbows, where you put your right elbow. It's got big storage areas. You've got great spot for charging your cell phones wirelessly. Everything seems to work, and we all know that no matter which Tesla you get the Tesla charging network, which is great. And look, you know, it's exciting to see all these other brands coming out and supporting. Just as a matter of fact, today Mercedes came in and said, okay, we're going NACS. So I'm really happy that it seems as though all these, because there's so many great cars out there. I know I've been very critical of buying anything recently other than a Tesla, just because of the DC fast charging. But when you really think about your use case, and perhaps maybe you don't have an EV today and you're thinking about buying your first EV, you know, maybe you don't road trip to start. If you have a Tesla, I wouldn't even hesitate to go out and try it. if you want to buy an ID4 or if you want to buy an Ioniq 5, you know, go out there, use it as your daily driver, take it on the occasional road trip. It'll probably be fine for you for the amount of traveling that you do away from the home. But if you think about how often you really are road tripping and what range you truly need, put a level 2 in your home if you can. It's kind of a dryer vent, an NEMA 1450, and plug right into that and charge your car every day just like you charge your cell phone. If you live in an apartment complex, hopefully there's some local, you know, level 2 charging that's around, and you can use that. But if on occasion you're going to take it on a road trip, you know, go for it. But if you're really doing an awful lot of road tripping today, Tesla network is just so reliable. It's hard to not recommend these vehicles. They are quite clinical. They are minimalistic, whether it's the S, the X, the Y, or the 3. And, you know, but when we have both the 3 and the Y sitting here together, this is my buddy Rob's car, as I mentioned earlier. You know, the long range is a 2019, 40,000 miles on it. This is a 2023 with, how many miles do we have on this thing now? 2,500 miles on it. Brand new car. They're both great cars. They really are. You got to take a step back and think about what your use case is. You really can't make a bad decision here, whether you get the S, the X. The S's and the X's, they have air suspension. They ride better. There's no doubt. But the 2023 Y, they've changed the suspension settings. I'm not a big fan of getting huge wheels with small tires, you know, skinny tires that, I don't mean to say skinny, low sidewalls that give you bumpy rides. The performance is Model 3 has a lot bigger wheels and smaller sidewall tires. You're going to have a much firmer ride, but boy, is that a fun car to take on the twisties, and you can actually modify it. There's a lot of aftermarket parts for suspension lowering and doing all kinds of things. The Model Y, there's just so many aftermarket parts for that as well if you choose to use those parts. But look, I hope this video, I just wanted to kind of like say, what are some of the things that I think are the differences between the two? Like I said before, if you're going to pick one and you can only have one Tesla, to me the Model Y is the way to go. The numbers don't lie. It's amazing that Tesla last quarter built 480,000 cars in one quarter. They're just really ramping it up. They're not the only game in town, but it is a solid choice if you're thinking about getting your first EV. And you know, really, you just can't make a mistake with Tesla. I'm going to be playing around with lots of different EVs, as a lot of you know I already do. And but right now, you know, we're really enjoying this Model Y. I'm loving my Model 3, my long range. That is the best value. Again, go over to the guide channel to see the numbers and the costs. It's just amazing, especially with the federal tax credit, if you're eligible for that, and some of the state, local rebates that you can get, how inexpensive that base Model 3 is. You know, it's funny, when you pull up anywhere in a Tesla, it doesn't matter if it's a Y or a 3, a lot of people look at you, especially younger kids. They're like, wow, look at that. There's someone driving a Tesla. Meanwhile, on an after-tax basis, a Model 3 rear-wheel drive with the LFP battery pack, that thing in some states is less than 27 grand out the door after you actually factor in all the tax credits. So, well, listen, I hope this video has helped you out a little bit. I had a lot of fun making it. Kathy, thank you as always for filming me. Appreciate that in this 97-degree heat. We did manage to find some shade here, but we'll catch you on the next video soon. And thanks again for watching. Take care now. Bye-bye.